Welcome back. Now let's revise payment of GST. Now, payment of GST, before we get into the provision, the first preliminary understanding which you should have is there are three ledgers. E-liability ledger. Now, what do we report in e-liability ledger? We report the output tax and we report the RCM payable, because both of these are my liabilities. See, RCM is not my output tax, but it is still a liability which I am required to pay. E-credit ledger, where I report my ITC. So all my ITC is reported in e-credit ledger. E-cash ledger, I have to deposit money. I cannot report it, I have to deposit money. Now, e-liability ledger has four major heads: I, C, SUT and cess, compensation cess, and five minor heads: tax, interest, penalty, fee, any other amount. E-credit has only one minor head, that is tax. Now, can we use this tax to pay off this tax? The answer is yes. Can we use tax in e-credit ledger to pay interest, penalty, fee, others? The answer is no. That means interest, penalty, fee, others have to be paid only through e-cash ledger. I cannot use my e-credit. Then there are three other amounts which are required to be paid only through e-cash. First one, RCM payable, because I cannot use ITC to pay RCM. RCM can be paid only through e-cash. A very simple reason for that, and that simple reason is ITC can be used only to pay output tax, and RCM payable is not my output tax. Then tax payable under composition scheme, I have to pay only through e-cash because a composition dealer cannot avail ITC. And last one is TDS, TCS, which is also required to be paid through e-cash. Then, can I transfer money within one head, major or minor, to another major or minor head within e-cash? The answer is yes, it is permitted. So say suppose money is lying in I tax. Can I transfer it to S tax? Yes. Can I transfer it to S interest? Yes. Can I transfer it to C interest? Yes. Vice versa is also possible. Say suppose money is there in S interest. Can I transfer it to C tax? Yes. E-cash ledger gives full flexibility. This is allowed using a form called as PMT09. What about one branch to another, sir? Say suppose I have one Bangalore branch where e-cash ledger is there. I also have Mumbai GST number where e-cash ledger is there. Can I transfer between e-cash ledger under the same PAN? This is also permitted using the same form PMT09, but only I and C is permitted. S is not permitted in this case. In the exam, you'll have to mention that only IGST and CGST can be transferred between two transferor and transferee of distinct person. Only I and C is permitted. Same form number PMT09, but one thing to be noted, Bangalore should not have any liability due in e-liability ledger. If he himself has a liability due in e-liability ledger, first he should pay his liability. Only then he should help others. Okay, then coming to how do you deposit money in e-cash ledger. See, deposit of money is to be done on the portal. So you have to first create a challan on the government portal. Once you create a challan, you get a CPIN, common portal identification number, which is a 14-digit number. Then you can choose online method of paying or offline method of paying. Online method is net banking, debit card, credit card, NEFT, RTGS or UPI IMPS. Offline method is over the counter. Over the counter, you can go over the counter of a bank and pay it. Now over the counter there is a limit of up to 10,000 per tax period per challan. Now, 3 cases this limit is not applicable. First, government department. They can pay any amount over the counter by giving checks. Any person notified by commissioner, and the last one is recovery being done by department. Now, once you complete this, you get a CIN, challan identification number, which is a 17-digit number. Now, CPIN is valid for 15 days and the form number is PMT06. Thereafter, you get a BRN, which is linked to each CIN, bank reference number. Sometimes CIN is not generated and you don't get money in eCash. Don't worry, RBI uses e-scroll mechanism. They track government payments, and based on that e-scroll, they will send a signal to government portal, that is GST portal, saying that give a credit in eCash. We have received this money, and based on that also you can get a credit in eCash. Now, what is the sequence to discharge? See, whenever you have money, first you should always clear previous dues, then current period dues, and then any other due including demand under 73 or 74. Two important points is rule 86A and 86B. 86A gives a power to the officer that he can block the e-credit ledger. He will not allow debit from e-credit ledger of an amount which he feels that fraudulent activities are done. First case, where recipient is non-existent, the person who took ITC, they went to that place, no one was there, or he is not carrying any business from that place. Supplier is non-existent, same case. Document is missing, document itself is not there, simply fake ITC is being taken, or tax is not paid by the supplier. Now, the maximum period for blocking is 1 year, and if you are able to prove in between that there is no case of fraud, then in that case officer can unblock it. Rule 86B. 86B says that 1% of the output tax, careful, RCM to anyways you have to pay through eCash, 1% of output tax liability to be paid through eCash, because it gives a restriction. 86B says you can discharge 99% of your output tax using ITC, and 1% needs to be paid through eCash. Output tax, RCM anyways you pay through eCash. Now, when does this apply? This applies only to a fraudster who is neither paying income tax nor paying GST. Let's see. First of all, it is applicable only when taxable supply, very important word, taxable supply exceeds 50 lakh in that month. That means every month you have to check whether I am covered by 86B. Then there are some exceptions. If I have paid income tax of more than 1 lakh in last 2 preceding financial year, this condition will not apply. If I have got a GST refund of more than 1 lakh in preceding financial year, again it will not apply. Refund when it is a case of zero rated supply or it is a case of inverted tax structure. Cumulatively paid more than 1% through eCash up to the said month in the current financial year. Cumulatively in the said month, I have already paid more than 1%. We'll see one example for this. Last one, government department, local authority, statutory body, PSU. All these are clean persons. They don't have to follow rule 86B. Now say suppose this is my output and ITC data for April, May and June. Now see, April and May I have paid money through eCash, but June I purchased more. Is it possible that in 1 month I have more purchases? Yes. So I did not pay anything through eCash. Will the restriction of 86B apply for June? Let's see. What is the total output? Do the total. Total output is 300 lakh. Now 300 lakh into 1%. How much is 300 lakh into 1%? 3 lakh. How much have I already paid through eCash up to the said month? 7 lakh. Have I already paid more than 1% through eCash ledger up to the said month? Then in that case, the restriction under rule 86B will not apply. This can be asked as a case study question. See it very carefully. Then coming to a very important point, which is Institute's favorite area, interest. Section 50 subsection 1 deals with interest on tax liability. Section 50 subsection 3 deals with wrong ITC availed and utilized. Careful. Interest will apply only when I have wrongly availed and utilized ITC. Now 50 subsection 1, say suppose output tax is 1 lakh, ITC is 80,000, e-cash I am paying 20,000. Now if this data relates to June 2024, I report this data of June in June GSTR 3B, but I report it late. June due date was 20th July. I filed it on 5/10. Then interest will apply on 20,000, because though I have reported late, I have filed June liability in June return. As I have filed June liability in June GSTR 3B, interest will apply on net liability, that is the amount payable through e-cash ledger. Now say suppose I report June liability in September return and I file September return on 5/10. Then interest will apply on full 1 lakh, because if I report June liability in September 3B, then that ITC which I am going to use in September GSTR 3B to pay the output is September's ITC, not June's ITC. So June liability reported in June return, interest will apply on net liability. June liability reported in some future month return, interest will apply on gross liability. And if I file the return after getting a notice under 7374, then interest will apply on gross liability. Say suppose I have wrongly paid C plus S instead of I. Then I realize that I have paid C plus S instead of I. Now I have to pay I and claim a refund of C plus S. Interest will not apply because I had already paid C plus S. Then coming to 50 subsection 3. Say suppose wrongly availed ITC is 10,000. 0 utilized. Interest will apply on 0. Wrongly availed 10,000. Utilized 6,000. Interest will apply on 6,000. Wrongly availed 10. Utilized 10. Interest will apply on 10. Now 4 key points. ITC wrongly availed. Interest will apply only when it has been wrongly availed and utilized. If I have not utilized it, then interest will not apply. When can I say I have utilized? ITC can be said to be utilized only when my balance in e-credit ledger falls below the wrongly availed ITC. And then interest will apply from the date of utilization till the date of ITC reversal or payment. Lastly, date of utilization is also defined. Date of filing GST return or due date of filing GST return, whichever is earlier. Let's understand this. See, I wrongly availed ITC of 30 lakh in September and filed the return on 20th October. Now, the balance in e-credit ledger was 40 lakh. Will interest apply? No. Thereafter, when I was filing October return, I filed it on 20th November. Then the balance in e-credit ledger on that date was 25 lakh. So has there been a reduction in balance in e-credit ledger? Yes. Now wrongly availed was 30. Balance has come down to 25 lakh. Have I utilized 5 lakh? Yes. Interest will apply on this 5 lakh. From which date? From 20th November when I utilized this 5 lakh. Now say suppose October return I filed on 25th. Then interest will apply on from 20th. If I file October return on 18th, then interest will apply on 18th because date of utilization is also defined. Date of filing GST return or due date of filing GST return, whichever is earlier. So careful about this one point. Institute may test you on this. Now, thereafter if I reverse entire 30 lakh, then as I have utilized only 5 lakh, interest will apply only on 5 lakh and not on the full amount. Clear with this? Yes. Okay, great. So this was about the computation mechanism. Now, when we say balance in e-credit ledger, if I have taken IGST wrongly, so is this balance I or combination of ICS? It's a combination of I plus C plus S. All three taken together I have to check, but not compensation cess. Sir, but why should we see all three together? Because see, I will get utilized first. The law clearly says I has to be used first. Now, as the law says I has to be used first, even if I say I have not used I, no one will believe me. Because I would have already utilized first. Portal will not allow me to do anything else, and law does not allow me to do anything else. That's why this balance in e-credit has to be checked, all three taken together and not alone. So ICS all taken together. Compensation cess will not be considered because compensation cess can be used only against compensation cess. Careful about this particular point. See you all in the next video.